Hello, I'm Dr. Shante, and welcome to the Hole in Your Heart podcast, where I help you fill the holes in your life by helping you find the hole in your heart. See what I did there? This is season 1 of the Hole in Your Heart podcast. Season 1 was filmed last year, and I was set to launch this podcast March 2024. But then life spectacularly happened. And so I had to put the podcast on the shelf and wait until this year until life was done lifing. What you're about to see is in a totally different studio. It has a totally different vibe, but the content is still important, and that's what I want you to focus on. So there are 6 episodes this season. Each episode is going to start with this exact video, so in the future feel free to skip it. But I can't wait for you guys to get into this content. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the other side. Hello, and welcome to Hole in Your Heart podcast. I'm Dr. Shante, and Hole in Your Heart is the podcast that takes a trauma-informed care approach to helping you find happiness and wholeness in your life and in your relationships. So we are doing a series right now, which is weird because depending on where YouTube is kind of random. And so depending on where you might find this, you may have seen other episodes that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. But I've put together a series called the Viral Series because on Instagram last year in 2023, I went viral several times, and these were videos that had more than 1 million views that were widely shared, and they were popping up in like Facebook groups and all kinds of things. And this video was actually the very first viral video that I had, so it's kind of special, and it's weird the way it happened because I remember recording it in January 2023, and I want to say I recorded it like January 12th or 13th. And I had just set it and forget it and went on about my life and my business. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like a hurricane that like went out and then gathered steam and then just came back, and it took off. And I mean, it was shared far and wide. It was shared by celebrities. It was shared by parents. It was shared in counseling and community groups. And it just really caught me off guard. And it really kind of catapulted. It was the catalyst for a lot of the growth that I experienced in that social media space. And so like January 2023, I had like something like 14,000 followers on Instagram. And now, as of the recording of this video, I think I'm closing in on like close to 150,000. And so for 1 year of growth, that is just staggering to me. And I'm grateful for it. I really am. I'm not a crybaby. I'm not an emotional person. Not really. I used to be like an emotional thug, but that's a different video for a different day. But I do get a little bit choked up and emotional because there's so much noise in the world and on the internet, and people have real issues and real responsibilities and all the things. And so I'm always really humbled when somebody can hear my voice in the sea of voices and in the sea of distractions and say that what you are saying is important enough for me to not only pay attention to it, but for me to follow and to get more of what you have to say and for me to share with people that I love and care about. So I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. So this video, the first viral baby, was talking about the work of an academic mathematician, Yuri Treisman. And Yuri's work completely transformed what we do and how we work with students with respect to learning and communities. Take a look. I'm going to try to tell the shortest version of this story possible. Years ago, there was a famous mathematician. His name was Yuri Treisman, taught at UC Berkeley. And in his class, his Asian students were doing amazing and his Black students were flaming out of that class. And so this bothered him. He asked his colleagues, why are they flaming out? And his colleagues gave him a bunch of answers like, well, maybe they came from unprepared schools and, maybe they just don't understand the rigor. And he was like, nah, you can't get into this school without having like the academic chops, like something is up. So he asked his Black students, he said, can I observe you for the next couple of weeks and just see how you're engaging with this material? And what did he find? He found that the Black students were actually studying more than the Asian students, but the key was they were studying alone, and the Asian students were studying in community. Fast forward, he made it mandatory that everybody would learn in groups and have learning communities. And within a couple of semesters, the Black students were doing equally as well as the Asian students. What's my point? Stop trying to do everything by yourself. Stop struggling in isolation. Stop pushing help away. Stop feeling like I don't need anybody. Like, no, okay? Life is hard. And you can only take yourself so far. Self-made is never entirely self-made. Somebody had somebody somewhere give them a hand, an aid, a chance, something. So stop trying to do everything yourself and see how far you get this year. Show of hands if you've seen this video. Okay. And I really want to unpack this because this is so important. It's so important. I am really leaning into the idea, and not just the idea, the practice of community and having community. This idea of rugged individualism, so I've got my trusty notes here because that's how I roll on this show. But this notion of rugged individualism, this going it alone, this tough guy, tough girl, I got this and I don't need anybody. That whole bit, yeah, that is a very Western, dare I say, American ideal, because I have been fortunate enough to travel this world, and that's not how the rest of the world works. That is not how the rest of the world works. Other cultures lean heavily into community. Other cultures lean heavily into family and friends. And you'd be surprised how many TikTok videos or Instagram videos that I've watched where people are sharing things with friends and family, and there's so many comments that say, oh, you have friends like that? Wow, I wish I had friends like that. How do people have that many friends? Or it's so hard to make friends when you're an adult, because in American culture, in Western culture, this notion of isolation, separation is baked in to how we engage and relate to one another. And it's very unhealthy. I'm reading this book called Together by Vivek Murthy. He was one of the Surgeon Generals of the United States. And he really talks about the science and the necessity of community and how loneliness is an epidemic in the United States. And so I will do a whole episode on that. But the point is, this notion of rugged individualism, if you have bought into that, okay, and if you have conditioned to believe that you're better off going it alone, and that if you need somebody, then you're a burden and you're a bother, and people have their own problems and nobody cares about you. I'm going to disrupt that right now. Hard stop. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's unhealthy. 90% of us are hardwired for community and connection. And so this idea of rugged individualism, it leads to a quality of life that diminishes you. And here's a hard statistic, right? So this is from the science of loneliness, that prolonged isolation, and a lot of this was exacerbated by the pandemic, but prolonged isolation is as detrimental to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So not only does it deteriorate your health, if you already have a pre-existing health condition, it exacerbates, okay? It exacerbates it and kind of hastens you to your end. I don't want you to die alone. And so if you are clinging to this idea of rugged individualism because you think they're handing out like badges somewhere, I can assure you they're not. The badge for that does not exist. And if you look at Netflix, so if you go on Netflix or have access to Netflix, even though, they're cracking down on password sharing, there is a documentary called Blue Zones. And Blue Zones are communities of people that have lived to over 100 years, okay? And so one of the key factors in being able to live a long life is community, is having people in your life on a daily basis that care about you. If you read Malcolm Gladwell's work, Outliers, his very first kind of premise of that book talks about the Rosetan Italian community and how, despite this diet of rich cheeses and lard and salami and all the things, they were not dying of heart disease. They were dying of old age because of the power of their community. This notion that I have a brother, I have a sister, I have people that care about me and are looking out for me. There is real power in community. And so if you are trying to go it alone all the time, I'm going to challenge you and push back on that. on that notion of rugged individualism. The second thing I want to say about this video is that asking for help does not make you weak. I really wish that we could normalize help seeking, because a lot of us have been made to feel that if we need something, then we are needy. There is a difference between having needs and being needy. And a lot of us tend to think that because we have needs, because we have questions, because we have support, need support, or we don't know the answer or what have you, then somehow we're less. And we're not. We're not less. We are not diminished in any way because we need help, because we need love, because we need comfort, because we need people. You are not less, okay? And I've seen us do this to one another. And I've seen us do this in by gender. I'm going to talk about the strong Black woman in a minute, but I have seen in so many circles where if a man, a heterosexual cisgendered man says, I need a woman, the response is, oh, okay, King, sign me up, hey. But if a woman says, I need a man, oh, you one of them? Independent. Like for a long time, it was like if a woman expressed a need for a man, she got, ostracized and she was weak and all of that. So I'm going to circle back to that notion in a minute. But what I really want to unpack here is in this place of help seeking is that there is something called stereotype threat. And I wish I could remember the researcher. I feel like it's Claude Steele and Asa Hilliard, I think. I will put it in the show notes. But stereotype threat is when you will shrink back or diminish yourself if you feel like your actions or behavior will reinforce a stereotype about your race, your gender, your sexuality. And so if you are in an environment, an academic environment, let's say, and there's a stereotype that, Black people are lazy or that they don't read. And so instead of asking the question and saying, hey, I've got a question about this reading material, you won't ask. You'll be like, yeah, no, because I don't want to reinforce that stereotype. If you're a woman and it's like, oh, women aren't supposed to be good at math and that sort of thing, that, leave that to the guys. If you have a question about a math problem, you're like, never mind, because you think it's going to reinforce a stereotype. And I feel like a lot of us are dealing with that because we feel like if I ask this question or if I put myself out there, if I make myself vulnerable and make it clear that I'm not sure or that I don't know or that I need more information, then I'm reinforcing the stereotypes that see what they say about women, see what they say about my culture, see what they say about my sexual orientation. And so stereotype threat is a very real thing that keeps people locked into a place of struggle and isolation. And the last thing that I want to say about this, getting back to the strong Black woman trope, right? It's a scam, honey. It's a scam. Black women in particular, I wish you would pick up the book. What is it called? Too Heavy a Yoke, Black Women and the Burden of Strength by Dr. Chanequa Walker-Barnes. Baby, it will snatch the edges. It really will, because it really does a very thorough job of unpacking how we came to be this pillar of strength where we feel like we have to save everybody. We have to save the republic, and we have to be the backbone and the pillar and the foundation and the rock, which is fine to be there for people. It's fine to support people. But a lot of that has been done without ever setting the expectation of reciprocity, without ever setting the expectation that, yes, I can help you and I expect to be helped. I expect to be supported. I expect to be nurtured. I expect to be loved. And my expectation of nurturance and love and support does not make me less. It does not make me weak. It does not make me a damsel in distress. It makes me a human being in need of human connection, in need of human benefit and mutual beneficial relationships. That's what it is. That's it. That's all. And so I can tell you with certainty, again, there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for you, for that trope. Nobody's handing out badges because you INDEPENDENT. That's not a thing. That is not a thing. And I wish that we would stop demonizing one another and castrating one another for wanting, needing, and expecting the kind of love, support, and care that we extend to other people. It's okay to allow that for your life. And so this trend now of leaning into that softer life, I'm all about it. I am all about it. Establishing those boundaries, establishing those expectations, deciding that you don't have to do it all, honey, go for it. Go for all of that, okay? It is okay to seek help. It's okay to have needs. It makes you, here it is, human. And human beings were not designed to go it alone. There is power, there is health, there is support, there is a better quality of life in community. So I hope that you will be intentional about finding your tribe and shaking off this idea that being by yourself somehow makes you better than or stronger than. Because in actuality, scientifically, it's actually making you weaker. Okay? So that is where I will leave it for this episode. If you found value in this, feel free to like and share or subscribe to this content. If you feel like someone else could benefit from it, absolutely share this content with them. That's the highest compliment that you can pay me. And I hope you find the hole in your heart. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the podcast. I would love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hop into the comments, give me your 2 cents. I read and respond to every single post. I can't wait to engage with you. If you like this podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, and always feel free to share.